Hi, this is Mrs. Hall, and today we're going to continue our discussion on operant conditioning and reinforcement and punishment. If you remember in our lesson previously, in lesson 3.1a, we were talking about positive and negative reinforcement and how reinforcement is used to encourage a behavior to happen again. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 3.1b and looking at punishment, and we're still going to use those same two terms, positive and negative, only this time we're going to apply them to punishment. So let's talk first about what punishment is. We talked in the previous lesson about reinforcement, and reinforcement strengthens a behavior. Punishment is going to do the opposite. It's a consequence that causes a behavior to be less likely to occur again. It's going to weaken that behavior, and it's always going to be something bad for the organism who's performing the behavior. Now here's the deal with punishment and with reinforcement as well. The subject or the organism is going to be the only one who can determine if that consequence, whatever it is that comes after the behavior, is reinforcing or punishing. Let me explain. There are some students who are motivated by grades, that getting a bad grade on a quiz or on a homework assignment is punishing for them. There are other students who couldn't care less. It doesn't matter to them whether they get a good or a bad grade. Grades don't matter. Those are not motivating for them. So you, as the person who's going to be administering a reinforcement or a punishment, you have to know your subject to know whether or not that consequence that you are putting out there is going to be rewarding or punishing. But let's talk about the two types of punishment. Again, we're going to be using those terms, positive and negative. So positive punishment, remember the word positive means to add something into the organism's environment. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to add into the environment something that the person does not like. This could be a verbal reprimand, it could be something painful like a spanking, it could be washing your mouth out with soap, it could be getting bit by a dog. For the dog here, it could be flicking his nose and that kind of a thing, but we add something into the environment that wasn't there before. And the purpose of that, adding something in, is to discourage the behavior, so making that behavior less likely to occur. Negative punishment, again, the word negative means to remove. It doesn't mean bad, but because punishment is always going to be bad. So negative means to remove, and this time we're talking about punishment, we're going to remove something that the organism does like. This is probably the type of punishment that you as adolescents are most familiar with. Whenever you're grounded, whenever you lose some sort of a privilege, that's negative punishment. So removing the use of your cell phone, removing the use of your car, removing the ability to hang out with friends, removing your freedom. Those are all examples of negative punishments. And what the goal is, again, is to discourage the behavior that caused that loss of a privilege to occur. So remember, both types of punishment are going to be bad, whether it's positive punishment, that doesn't mean good punishment, that means punishment by adding something in. So as you look at these pictures here, a little girl is going to touch the stove, ouch, that's going to hurt, that's going to add pain into her environment, that's going to make her less likely to touch the stove again in the future. Or negative punishment, which is a loss of privileges, so removing something that was already existent, and that's going to decrease that behavior as well. So when we come back to class, we're going to be applying these different types of reinforcements and punishments, and if you can have those four terms, the definitions and those concepts pretty well understood when you come back to class, you're going to be a step ahead and ready to apply those things. So just as a review, positive means adding, negative means removing, reinforcement means to have a consequence that increases a behavior. Punishment means to have a consequence that decreases a behavior. And then we'll apply those when we come back to class.